Killen. I'm a member of the Goshen Valley Volunteer Fire Department and president of the Hawkins County Firemen's Association, who is putting this program on in partnership with the Hawkins County Schools, in particular tonight with the Cherokee High School. I would like to point out to each of you, when you came in those exits in the rear of the door. We have exits to my left and my right. I don't expect that there would be any problem, but if there was an alarm or a reason to evacuate this room, please move slowly and take your time. I don't think there's a problem. The school board years ago had a good vision to build this school with a sprinkler system. At this time, I would like to call upon my dear friend, Reverend Sheldon Livesey of One Accord Ministries.
We'll open in prayer. Father, we want to thank you for what this weekend represents. Resurrection Sunday. It's what the whole faith of Christianity is all about. So we come tonight thanking you. Father, thank you for the community that we live in and the state we live in. Lord, we believe that we live in the very best place on the face of this earth to live, and we thank you for that. And Father, we thank you that Tennessee is known as a common sense state, and we have plenty of common sense leadership that gives this a good place to live. Thank you for that. Lord, you are raising up just regular citizens in our community, like these great folks that are on the panel tonight. And you are raising them up to become champions. They are willing to serve for no other reason, Lord, but to serve and to be a representative of the constituents that they're going to represent. Thank you for them. Thank you that they are traveling, they're doing all of these things to allow folks to understand how they would lead if they would get elected. I pray your blessing upon them. I pray your blessing upon their travels, their blessing upon their families. Lord, blessing them upon their health. And those that are elected, we pray that they will look to you for the leadership and the decisions that need to be made. Father, we come together tonight just humbly before you, asking that you will help us right the sinking ship of this nation through the leadership that is elected in these next elections. Lord, we ask you to help us and direct us in the things that we do, the leaders that are in place, and help us learn not only to support them, but to pray for them and to stand in action with them if it comes to it. Lord, bless them, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise? Cherokee High School leadership will wear off the uniform and get the colors. Please remain standing when Maya Lawson of the student government will come and lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Call them later, candidates. Yeah. Maybe. I hope. Oh, yeah.
Freeze and colors.
Thank you. All right.
This is the president of the student government, Holly Miller, and student government representative, Maya Lawson, who will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary. Colors. Ready. Cut.
how about a big hand for the Cherokee members of the County Party? You may be seated. I'd like to take care of a couple of special things. I'm probably going to miss a couple of things, but at this point in time, I want to recognize some very important people who made this happen. We're fortunate to have with us tonight the Director of Schools, Matt Hixson. Matt, I know you're here somewhere in the back. Thank you very much for your support, particularly to the fire science program that you put into the school system. I would like at this time to ask in the audience, not our candidates on the stage, but I would first begin with all of those who are currently holding electing office in Hawkins County. Would you please stand? Thank you very much. Let's give them a big hand for being here. Are there any candidates for office in the office tonight? Please stand. And a big hand for these folks. Thank you very much. Now, what I'd like to do now, I'd like to ask everyone in this room, except the candidates for mayor, to please stand. Please join me in giving these folks on the stage a round of applause for putting their name out to the mayor's office. Thank you very much for the contribution. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn this over to our Master of Ceremonies, Dewitt, and he'll give you some information and guidance, and we're ready to go.
Really got to turn this one off. All right, so I'm going to read some ground rules for the candidates as well as the audience. So as you know, this forum is sponsored by the Hawkins County Volunteer Firemen's Association. This is a group of your friends and neighbors dedicated to keeping you safe. So there's an opportunity for everyone to donate in the booths right outside the door there. And you can even become an affiliate member of one of the volunteer fire departments. And I'll tell you for sure, they're all looking for volunteers. And after we're all done tonight, for those of you that have never played with a fire engine, and really, since you were 5 years old, wanted to do that, we're going to be set up outside. You'll be able to touch one. Might even let you move some valves and stuff. So get familiar with what these folks do to protect you. And at this time, we want to ask any of the volunteer fire personnel that are here to stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Got a bunch in the back here. All right. We're going to be seated and we'll get started. HCVFA, which is the Hawkins County Firemen's Association, recruited me to read these questions and asked me to read some ground rules for everybody. First, everybody remember to mute your mobile device. Okay, put them on vibrate or put it on mute. And HCVFA has made a provision for you in the audience to submit questions that will be read to our candidates. All right, we've got a bunch of boilerplate ones that they wrote up for me to ask, but we've already got a handful, and we're gonna ask some of those as we go along. A couple guidelines on those questions. No gotchas, no singling out a person. You have to be a Hawkins County resident. Ask a question you think everybody else here in the audience is dying to ask, but just hadn't thought of it. And for you in the audience, no taunting, no cheering. That's supposed to be funny. Yeah. So we want to let these guys communicate their thoughts in quiet and in civility. And for you guys, please, no personal attacks. We want this to be an exchange of ideas. We're not doing a debate here, so you're not going to respond to anybody else's. Everybody's going to get the same question. You all are seated alphabetically. I'm going to start with David first with the first question. And he'll get the first one, and we'll go down this way. But in order to not give Martha the advantage of hearing what everybody else said to all the other questions, you're going to get the second one. Okay? And we'll go through that through all these questions. Over my better, no, I shouldn't say it. We're only going to give you 1 minute. You see that timer in front of you? Yeah. So when you start to answer, I'm hitting the go button. You got 60 seconds. That's all we're being allowed, okay? So you need to be able to make your point quickly and succinctly and to the point. And part of this whole process is for these guys to evaluate how well you can communicate your thoughts, given a very short period of time to do that. And that's a part of the challenge for tonight. So keep in mind that the voting audience is going to evaluate you not only on your content, but how clearly you can get your idea across, because one of you is going to represent our county at the state level and through all kinds of agencies, and you need to communicate for the county for those. So we're going to evaluate you tonight on how well you're able to do that. So we're going to start out by giving every one of you a 2-minute free hand, and these guys have all been told this ahead of time, so this is not a gotcha. You're going to get 2 minutes to say whatever you want to say to the audience before we start into the questions. And this time, I'm going to start with Martha, and we're going to go this way. So Martha, you have 2 minutes. Each one of you has an individual mic. And so just be aware of that. No muttering under your breath, because it may be heard out here. So Martha, you are up.
Hi, Martha Wallace. And can y'all hear me?
Yeah, they all have mute buttons.
I was born and raised in Hawkins County, and educated in Washington City School and Washington High School, and graduated in 1977. I've been married to my husband James for 50+ years, and we have 2 children, Maria and Brandon. We have 6 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren. I was hired into the county mayor's office in 1999 by Doug Price, who was then the county executive. He hired me as his administrative assistant and purchasing coordinator. And as an administrative assistant, I worked closely with all the elected officials in the county. As purchasing coordinator, I have issued purchases for all the expenditures through those county offices. I've had the pleasure of working for 5 mayors over those 30 years, 30+ years. After 30 years, I retired in June 30th of 2020 as a full-time employee, and was hired as a part-time employee for purchasing assistant. And I'm still working in that capacity tonight. I have worked as helping to train girls that are working right now. I have worked with county commissioners. I've done lots of relationships with state offices and regional offices, and some federal offices. I have worked with all departments. I've worked with solid waste. I've worked with emergency management. I've worked with computer programs. I've worked with many organizations, nonprofit organizations, a lot of citizens over the years. And I have enjoyed my work. I have a heart for Hawkins County, and I want to see us progress. I want to see us
Yeah, I gotta hold everybody to the line. They told me I'm supposed to ring this, but I thought that'd be a little much. Okay, Stacy, you're up.
I thank y'all for being here this evening. My name is Stacy Vaughn. I live in the Stanley Valley community of Hawkins County. Been involved in public safety basically my whole career. As a teenager in the community, I joined our local fire department and still serve there for over 37 years, served as 14 years as fire chief there at Stanley Valley Fire Department. Once started my working career, my career focused mainly on law enforcement. Went to work for the sheriff. Still work at the sheriff's office today as a patrol shift supervisor. I supervise a team of deputies that answer the citizens' calls when they call needing something. Still a member of the fire department. I served my community for 14 years as a county commissioner representing District 3. Served on numerous committees, airport budget, public safety. Had my hands in numerous projects and seen a lot of positive things happen for the county. Done work hand in hand with Ms. Wallace on a whole lot of projects. My whole career has been based in and around Hawkins County and seeing Hawkins County prosper and to do what's right for Hawkins County. Still live in Stanley Valley, being cattle farmer, raised tobacco up until 16. Now just focus mainly on raising cattle. Still do that and work with the sheriff. Thank you all for coming.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Stapleton, and I've been a lifetime resident of Hawkins County. I wasn't born here, but my grandfather was, and that's how we ended up back in Rockville. Married to lovely Leah Stapleton, and I would like to see our community grow through communication at all levels. I've had the joy and pleasure of being able to travel for multiple companies across the nation and my occupations have allowed me to create a lot of relationships all over here in the community and across the nation. And I would like for us on many levels be able to communicate through the good and the bad, because if we don't understand where people die, whether you agree or disagree, that's a foundation that we can support and then figure out from there where we need to go. I would like to see our voters increase, especially my generation and the generations coming after me. Our current voting age, median is 57 years of age, and I would like to see our school systems and information being able to be given out to family members to get their children and family informed and growing our community, because that's how we have to start, is through communication.
Okay, Killen.
I appreciate if everybody would get, I've got a brochure, and everybody look at it, you see what who I am, about the family, even a picture. But I'd like to get a few points across. In the last several months, I have spoken to these people face to face all.
Hey, Kelly, check your mic. I don't think it's on. I think there should be a mute button on there.
How's that?
I think Kenny took the batteries out of it.
Okay. I won't start plumb over, but it is, in the last several months, I've met people face to face all over the county, and that was my intent when we started. I have walked the streets, I've drove all the valleys several times. Everyone that has taken my card or seen my sign, I've started an open door policy, or they have my phone number. And I asked everybody if they got questions to use that phone number, and we're communicating. We're already doing it. When I become your mayor, I will visit every elected official. I will ask them how I need to work with them, how we need to work together to get results. I think this will be the first step in taking politics out of the decision-making process. As your mayor, you will see me working hard for you. I'll work for you, you won't work for me. We will not focus on why we can't, but how we can. We will work together, we will pray together, and we will get results together. I ask for your vote. May the 3rd. Is it still good? I want to be your mayor. Please vote for me. God bless you and God bless Hawkins County.
Okay, I'm Michael Derrick. I was born in Hancock County. I'm a Hawkins County Commissioner. I've been a commissioner for 8 years. Since I've been a commissioner, I've been a budget chair, I've been public safety chair, I've been chair of 911, I've been chair about everything, solid waste and all. And with all that experience, that's one reason I think I'm qualified to be the mayor of Hawkins County. And with all that, I mean, I've been a ZF for going on 35 years. And while I've been there, I've moved all the way up. I'm a tooling engineer designer now. And on top of that, I'm on my own business. I'm a precision technology here in Hawkins County. It's a CNC machine shop. And I know most of you know I'm a referee. I do act. I don't get enough abuse as a county commissioner, so I'll go ahead and be a referee so everybody else can beat on me. Been married 24 years, got 2 kids, both of them ETSU. One of them's going to be a biomedical engineer, the other one's going to be an attorney. My daughter says she's going to be an attorney so she can keep me out of trouble. She said I talked to her. Besides that, I mean, I've got the experience being the mayor of this county. I've been all over this county. I've heard about the roads, I've heard about the wheel tax, I've heard about fire departments, and it all can be fixed. You really can. We just got to take the steps to do it. And I'm pretty sure with me being the mayor, we can find the steps to start fixing some of these problems here in Hawkins County. Thank you.
My name is Gibson. I'm from Churchill. My parents originally out of Hancock County. They ended up moving around a little bit and settled in Churchill when I was about 2 years old. I graduated from Churchill High School in 1973. I was fortunate enough, I received a football scholarship. I went to Virginia Tech, which I graduated with a BS degree from Virginia Tech. Then I completed a master's degree, plus I had 45 more hours in education. I ended up working started out teaching at Churchill High School. Then, when volunteer opened, felt like I was coming home, coming in here, because, volunteer and Cherokee were built on the same plans, just different colors. So I taught at Churchill. Volunteered for another 11 years, and I got a job offer, and I moved to Sullivan Central High School, where I spent 2 years in the classroom, and then I spent my last 18 years working in high school administration. And if you've had kids and had the issues, you had to go to school, you had to work with those principals, and that's what I did. I had to settle with a lot of problems. I am currently a county commissioner. This is my first term. I am also an alderman in the city of Churchill, which this is my 3rd term, and I've been elected to the alderman seat in Churchill. One of my major accomplishments in Churchill, which Mark don't like this, but we got a splash pad in Churchill, which I helped push through. In fact, I brought the idea up and I pushed it through. And the lady that we dealt with told me, she said, this is the fastest we've ever had anybody start from the ground and finish a splash pad, which is a big thing in Churchill. I've served on several different committees, from the budget, the airport, education. I'm the chairman of education, chairman of the airport, and co-chair, the vice chair of the budget committee. And I'm about to run out of time, so I would appreciate your vote. If you have any more questions about me, I've got a website, voteforgibson.com. Thank you very much.
I think Keith stole the idea of the splash pad, but that's okay.
It worked.
It worked. We're going to have one eventually. First of all, thanks to the Hawkins County Volunteer Firemen's Association for putting this on. I'm glad somebody stepped up and did this. Thanks to Cherokee High School, and ROTC, and student government. I hope it's a learning experience for them. I'm real passionate about kids learning through experience. So thank the other candidates for being here. This is not an easy thing to do, get up here and talk to you all. But we're here. My name is Mark Dewitt. Currently, well, like Keith, I serve on the board of mayor and alderman of Rogersville, not Churchill. This is my first term also as county commission for District 5. So I have some experience in that area. I'm currently vice president at MBM Packaging, and we own a couple other companies together, Marcom Ford Division 1, you may have heard of them. I owned a computer business downtown for lots of years, and that was successful. Graduate of Rogersville High School and University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Married to Ann Russell DeWitt, who's sitting right here. She's my golden ticket vote getter. We have one daughter, Sarah, and we just have a big happy family, 3 or 4 dogs and a bunch of cats, and we get along real well with that. The son of the late Maury and Rita DeWitt, some of you know my dad Maury. He started the Dodge manufacturing plant here in Rogersville. I've had a lot of jobs, and they've given me experience in things like staff management, customer relations, budgeting, grant writing, things like that. So you can go to markforhawkinscountymayor.com for more information. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Bailey. I'm 53 years old, soon to be here in a few weeks. I'm a resident of Hawkins County, born and raised in Tarpon Valley over in the Kepler community. Graduate of Cherokee High School in 1987. I helped put on the first production play in this school when we done it back in 1983, a full-fledged production play. Married my wife Stephanie. I've got 2 stepchildren, 3 grandchildren. I am one of the owners of the Golden Dairy restaurant right over here in Rogersville. We are, to my knowledge, the oldest continuous family-run business, Rogersville family-run restaurant in Hawkins County. There are a couple of restaurants older than us, but we're the oldest continuous family-run business as far as restaurants go. Been doing this for 20-some years. I work for Kmart Corporation, I work for Big Lots, I've traveled for other companies and done different things for them and wholesale, retail, and everything. I am running for county mayor because I am tired of the same old, same old. We need some change in our county. I don't see change. I hear change, but I never see change. I don't know if I'm the person that can do that, but I will get out and try for you. If you have a problem, you have a question, you come to my office, we will discuss that. We will do everything that we can. We've got a lot of issues that we need to account for in this county, and a lot of people need to step up. We need input from the voters, all citizens. We need help for our schools, our sheriff's department. We've got a homeless problem. We've got all kinds of problems. And a couple of candidates have already said, if we work together, we can solve these problems, folks. We can solve these problems. But it's going to take a unified council, aldermen, commissioners, however you want to say it. It's going to take it from everybody, Churchill, to Bulls Gap, to Mooresburg, to Clinch, to everywhere, to work together. So come August 4th rather, I would appreciate your vote for county mayor. Thank you.
Okay, now comes the fun part. Yeah, you need to have them right here, brother.
Got a little bad.
Yeah, Kenny, that's good. All right, so we're gonna get started. If anybody wants to write a question to come and be asked of the candidates, raise your hand, somebody will bring you a form. We're gonna start with the boilerplate stuff. The first two are pretty easy and they're all yes or no. First one is, raise your hand if you intend to be the chairperson of the county commission. Good. This one, why don't you take a second to think about. Please raise your hand if you agree to conduct bi-monthly Ask the Mayor town hall meetings with any of the citizens of Hawkins County if you're elected. You want to hold a bi-monthly town hall with the citizens, good. So, we figured that out, sure that. We just want to get you on record. This is being recorded, by the way. Okay, David, your first question, your first victim here. Explain the difference between a leader and a manager. Which one are you and why do you think so?
A leader is someone that can bring you out and teach you how to do things, work with you to incorporate, to let you grow, and show you how to do and help you in situations that you may or may not know about. A manager, in all the terminology that I've ever done with, a manager sort of does the same thing over and over. When I was a manager with Big Lots Corporation, I done the same thing over and over every day. A leader, it changes every day. You don't know what's going to happen. Things come and go, people come and go. And you have to be equipped to handle those people and be able to communicate with them in a manner to let them understand that everybody's in it together to do the best for the company, for the county, for the business, whatever situation that it calls for. And when you have that, okay.
Remember, these are 60-second answers. Okay, Mark?
Is that a question?
Yeah, everybody's going to answer the same question. We're not going to single out questions for anybody. So, difference between a leader and a manager, which one are you?
Okay. You have like 10 seconds back.
Oh, yeah.
I think you can be both, and you need to be both at times. I would prefer to be a leader, to get people to do what needs to be done by showing an example. I don't think that it's fair to ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do, show your leadership style that way. But there are times and there are people who will not follow that, and at that point you have to become a manager. You have to give them some sort of guidance as to how to get back on track, performance plans, things like that. So honestly, I think you need to be a leader first and a manager second.
Okay. Thank you. Keith?
Be a leader, somebody to take the bull by the horn and set the tone for what needs to be done. They're going to set precedent, they're going to tell you what you need to do, and they can't be closed-minded because, you know, a leader will listen to everybody and then come up with the best ideas. You don't have to, you know, sometimes you don't have to, it has to be your idea. If somebody else, that you've got to be able to take that idea and grow that idea and come out with the best solution you can. A manager, you know, you've got to, like I said, you've got to be able to wear both hats. A manager, if when you get the idea, you get it in place, a manager has to be the one that will take it and put it to practical use and let it grow as it is used.
Yeah, I think leaders also, the reason why the leader should be the CFO of the county. And that person will be the one that takes all responsibilities, no matter what it is, if you're dealing with taxpayers or whatever. And how I feel about the leader. And on the manager side of it, the manager should be the one that takes care of the employees and all that, get it all. If he can't handle it, it comes back to the leader. And the leader, like I said, he's the one that makes all the decisions, communication to the public and anybody else, and try to find ways and grant money and everything to make it handle better.
The leader needs to be the subject matter expert and know and understand how to explain their job, and they're needing people from the decision-making process. Get them involved, and get them involved so they're asking questions, and then you take their ideas, put them together, and get them manages basically what's already there and tries to make it better. And that's where the new mayor would come in to office, looking at what's there and say, okay, I'm gonna make it better. And on the other hand, there's things there that are all in the box. We need to get outside that box and do things different. And that's why we make it.
I would choose leader because I believe a leader is a strong teacher, and if you're a strong teacher, hopefully you can develop over time a congregation of continuous leaders to do that. So if you have a strong enough leadership in any role, I don't think that there's much need for a manager in that situation, because if you're creating what you produce, you can leave those people to lead as they see fit in their community. The manager, most people don't like the term manager. Most people don't like to be micromanaged. And I think there's been some of that going on. I believe that through strong leadership that we can get through that.
Thank you.
I think to be a good leader and a good manager, management would have to go hand in hand. A good leader would have to have the respect of his employee, of his subordinate. He would have to lead from the front. By having the respect, people would help the leader achieve his goals in achieving the tasks they need to get accomplished. But that leader would also have to manage those tasks, whether it would be managing a budget that falls underneath an office holder's immediate control. Having a good leader and being a respectable good leader would mean a lot to the employees, but I strongly believe good leadership and good management goes hand in hand. One's going to have to work off the other.
Thanks, Stacy. Martha?
I think a good leader and gather a team of players.
Yeah, you're not coming through.
Leader, gather
Who's the other one?
to accomplish a goal.
I think a leader is a team of players to accomplish a goal that's been set out, can communicate to the team what needs to be done to accomplish that goal, and can delegate the work in different areas to different people, to do their portion of the work. And as a manager, he would oversee and make sure that those team players are
Doing their portion of the
And I find that working at the mayor's office over the years, the mayor has a crew of work for him.
he is a manager, but your office holder, your different employees in the office have tasks that
us your view, tell us the audience, your view of what are the basic functions of local county government, and put them in priority order. So I'll order. I'm going to read that one again. Tell the audience your view of what are the basic core functions of local county government in order of priority. Mark, you get this one first.
Well, I think the office of mayor needs to, be organized enough to get the priorities straight, but the priorities kind of change from day to day. Management of the finances, management of the office staff, those are high priority in that office. Relationships with the commission would be a high priority as well. And like we all raised our hand and said that, we would be chairman of the commission, and that's up to the commission. We have to be voted in. But once that's established, there needs to be direct relationships with the commission. There needs to be direct relationships with the public. One of my priorities would be to get some citizens on some committees. I know there's citizens out there who know a whole lot more than some of the commissioners, so that would be the order I would put it.
In my opinion, one of the biggest things is to take care of the citizens of this county, and there are several different things. You're talking the financial aspect, the way the rate of inflation is going on now. Taxes, make sure that we try to keep the county spending in line. Take care of the safety for this county. There's law enforcement, we need to try to make sure they're funded well enough. Fire safety, keeping volunteer fire departments, and I thank you all for what you're doing here. Putting this on, they'll bring attention to you all to take care of the fire safety for the county coming out. Basically taking care of the residents of this county, being the keeper of the finances and everything else.
We might need to pass that mic around, but let's try it, Mike. Go ahead.
I think we'll start with taxpayers. The reason I say it, we need to know all the concerns in the county with the taxpayers. And I think we'll start there and then work our way into the mayor's office. And that way you will have a better understanding as the new mayor. One of us is good. But we're going to have to understand what the taxpayers is looking for. And then we're going to have to get in office and start understanding the budget a little bit better. Look at all office holders' budget and make sure check and balance there. And I think full accountability and transparency is the biggest thing.
Okay.
Hey, Woody?
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? Everybody turn off their lights up there and just pass the one?
Yeah, that's probably what we're going to need to do.
Yeah, because there's a feedback back here that I can't get out of it. So if you'll just pass that one, I can make it work.
Hand it.
Well, you need to turn them off. Turn off all the individual.
Yeah.
I can do that back here.
Yes. Did I hear that?
Yes.
I think the mayor works for the people. The people don't work for the mayor. The mayor needs to know what the needs of the people is. He needs to know needs to know the needs of them to keep them police. Hello?
Keep it.
Okay. But I think a good mayor of Hawkins County is least. I tell you. Needs to know and understand. A good mayor in Hawkins County needs to know and understand what the people's needs are. He needs to
make those needs include work. He needs to know the budget, inside and out, line by line, and understand, is this something we still need? Just because we used it the last time don't mean necessarily we need it now. And the mayor needs to investigate that, but he needs to listen to the people.
Thanks, Kelly.
Is that it?
Little extra. Kenny?
What's the question again? Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah. What is your view? What are the basic functions of local county government in order of priority?
Well, we have a minute to address so many important issues, and it goes way deeper than one sentence or 1 minute. But gravitating towards the community as mayor, being chairman of the commission, getting communication settled between multiple offices and the subcommittees and along with Rockville, Churchill, throughout Hawkins County, our local fire departments, our local law enforcement. It goes so much further than just being able to sit here and go, yeah, I've got everything in control. You have to start with communication, even if it's the hard communication. That allows you to know where people are at, so you can find that middle ground.
I'm not. You got me on there now, Brandon?
Should be.
My priorities would be, I guess we need to look at this budget to see what we could fund adequately. I've heard different people say we need to fund the fire department, we need to fund law enforcement. We're working on about $100 million budget, a little over $100 million budget a year with the tax penny that's coming in. It's funded by $2.16 property tax rate and a $40 increase in the wheel tax for a $67 total wheel tax. The last budget was made with nearly $2 million in the deficit. So the first thing I'm going to look at is this budget and see how we can adequately get public safety funded and make sure our schools are still funded and industry is still funded, industrial growth is still funded to try to help this county grow. Without good schools, we're not going to have good industry. Industry is going to look at our schools, so we want to keep producing good students out of our schools. We want to keep making fiscally responsible budgets that operate within the funds that we generate here. I can't sit here and tell you, if I'm elected, I'm going to take your wheel tax away, but I can help the elected commissioners manage what money is coming in on this wheel tax so that we can put it where it needs to be and help offset any kind of tax increase that may be forthcoming in the future.
I think for a county to function as a
I'm the forgotten person, okay? I'll agree with Mark. There's no really set way to prioritize what needs to be because there's so many facets that can change daily, like you said. Totally agree with that. We do need to make sure, though, that your next county mayor is one that is willing to communicate first and foremost with everybody in the county. Not just the officers, but all the county residents. We've got 53,000 representative people in this county, all good people. They all need to have a say. If you vote, you will have a say. We've got different things that can happen. We don't know. We could have a catastrophe happen, and we have to have tax money to take care of that or that. So therefore, that's why I go back with Mark to say we cannot just prioritize certain things. But we do need to have a balanced budget. We do need to have people that are in our county commission that we are working together with on a daily basis. All of our other county offices, we need to try to eliminate waste. We've got our schools, we've got our fire departments, we've got everything that is so much going on. And, you know, you just need someone there that is going to try to be a leader, to do the best they can to put people together.
Sorry. So this is a question that comes from
Roger Manus from Mooresburg. Is it?
here.
Is it a conflict of interest for a current county employee to be a county commissioner?
I don't think so. My opinion is no, that, you know, the people that do the voting in that district are the ones that decide on who they want to put in as a county commissioner. Now, you know, it comes up that sometimes you may end up having a conflict and you have to declare a conflict where you cannot vote. And I'm going to give you an example. You know, if a teacher was on there, if there was something that they were voting on that was a direct conflict, they could not vote. But when you vote on like a budget that includes everybody and all you're doing is voting up or down, they should be able to vote on it. So my opinion is, no, it would not be a conflict of interest.
I know this has been going on. I know Gary Hixson, they had this issue in Nashville back when I was a commissioner in 15, 16, I think. They changed the law a little bit about the conflict there, but my personal opinion, I say yes, I think it's a conflict. Because the budget's always together, it's never separated, so they actually, if they're getting a raise, they get the budget separated. So I kind of disagree. I think it is a conflict, and I think the laws ought to be changed a little bit more, either to split the budget up, or they have to abstain from voting on the budget.
Yeah. The question came from
Roger Manus from Mooresburg. Is it a conflict
of interest for a current county
employee to be a county commissioner?
Yes, I would say it would be a conflict. But because the priority.
I'm going to say yes on it will be a conflict because you have direct information in one atmosphere of our county that could be distributed, whether it be knowledge or possible funds towards your specific job within the county. And I think there'd be a conflict to allow somebody in that position, just the same as if you let a commissioner, you know, sorry, I'm getting tongue tied here, but I do believe it would be a conflict because you're allowing that person to have forefront information previous of everybody else that may not have access to it.
You know, being a former county commissioner while I was a county employee, I heard that quite a bit throughout the county. A lot of people was under the perception that this would be a conflict. As a county employee that served on the commission, you're not allowed to vote for anything that pertains to your benefits. You can still vote for a budget. You can still vote on the issues, the tax rate, and all that. But it does give the perception of a conflict. And I can tell you,
being in that position, it makes it very, very difficult. I served as the budget chairman, and I worked for the sheriff. And prior to the wheel tax being implemented, his budget was one of the hardest ones that was cut, and I was the budget chairman. So if the law doesn't look at it as a conflict, I can tell you it makes for a very stressful situation as an employee dealing with the budget. So I operated under what the law said, and I can see it both ways. I really can.
I don't think it's a conflict of interest for an employee to be a county commissioner, as long as that employee can keep an open mind, and identify when there is a conflict with his vote, and he has to state that at getting county commission before he votes on a resolution that there will be a conflict. I know that Stacy said it's probably going to be tough on the employee if it's an issue with that department. They can always abstain from voting, correct? They can always abstain from voting and not vote on the issue. But as far as the state law allows it, so I think that would be something that the employee as a county commissioner needs to keep an open mind.
Mike?
You got two that have any?
We're never run out of time. Come there and go ahead.
Well, obviously, I think it's a conflict of interest just because of the perception of the rule. You know, I'm gonna vote myself a raise. That's how people look at it. It may not always be true, but I know that's how people look at it. And I understand that, and it may or not be a conflict, but you've got to look at the county residents as a whole to say, what do they think? Not what do I think, what do they think? So I do think just because of the perception of the rule, of how people listen to what's being said, I think it would be a conflict of interest. And if it were okay to be everything, I can see where you could abstain from voting, but I do understand and I do think that it would be a conflict of interest.
All right.
Biggest challenge is you've got people, biggest challenge is you've got people who want to run for commission that may be involved with the county. It's tough to get people to run to begin with. So if you've got somebody that's involved with the county, they really want to be more involved with the county, so they're going to run for commission. So it's a huge potential for a conflict of interest, and it's going to be tougher when we go down to 14, because you're going to have committees that have to be made up of one from each district. You look at things like the budget committee. I personally would not appoint somebody to the budget committee that has anything to do with the county. That's going to be tough with 14, which is why I still want to get the idea out to bring citizens in and help that out a little bit. But yes, it's a potential for a conflict of interest.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 14. All right. So we're going to get to a couple of questions from the volunteer fire group. So we've done some broad stuff, now we're going to focus on some of their concerns. And so, first question, Mike, is what would you do to improve emergency services in the county?
First thing I would do, I like to take, if I'm elected mayor, first thing I would want to do, I want to get, and I'm going to just use fire department for right now, I'd like to get all the fire chiefs together, and I know a lot of them work during the day, so I'm willing to give up my afternoon to sit down with all the fire chiefs and try to figure out what all the problems they have and any other public safety. Because every year I look at a budget, and I mean, every one of them, public safety, they need this, they need that. More likely with the budget we have, they're not going to get it. So what I would really like to see is just sit down, and I know like the fire department, I don't need to be for know they know which fire department is struggling, and we all need to work together to try to get all these fire departments back up to par and help get them funded there and what they're saying.
And emergency services, even though the question came from the fire guys, you got EMS, you got the rescue squad.
So, emergency services is a broad category, so speak to that.
How are you going to improve?
Okay, since it's fire department, let me speak to that, and what Mike said, I agree with what he said. But I think that we need to identify, I would say, go back a year and say, are we better than we were a year ago? If we're not, we need to get back up to this. This county's growing, and we gotta see it. Our benchmark needs to be a little bit higher, but we need to know how to get there. We need to identify the things we need each department needs to identify what they need the most from that. And if it's a big item, you don't have to go after grants. You don't have to look at federal money, whatever you gotta do, but it's gotta be a consensus in the group. We're making it. I think we're shooting in the dark sometimes. We need stuff on paper. Maybe not. Maybe I just not looked at it. But we need to know exactly what we need to make us better or at least stay where we're at. And we need to fire protection. So personal protection would be the way.
King, what are you going to do to improve emergency services in the county?
Well, for one, as being a former deputy of the Hawkins County Sheriff's Department, and Stacy Vaughn knows that a lot of the employees there have second and third jobs to provide for their family. And I may sound a little cut up here because it hits home because I work there. I believe that they're all important, but with the volunteer fire department, I believe wholeheartedly that they need and have to have the equipment to produce their job that keeps every one of us safe. But going back to the sheriff's department, when you have men and women up there that put their life on the line and have to have the second or third job to provide for their family is atrocious to me. I worked up there all month, and my take-home salary was less than my mortgage. So if I didn't do anything the rest of the month, I would have to walk to work, not eat, and continue on that way and wash my clothes in the creek to pay my mortgage. So I want to put that at a very front and then trickle out from there. Every one of them is important because any of us are in a wreck, fire, they all respond. It doesn't fall on them.
Thank you. David, what are you going to do to improve emergency services in the county?
No.
You're working now. Well, I feel like actually in the budget year 2017-18, I started right then helping to further benefit and help emergency services in Hawkins County. During that year, I'm the only one sitting up here that voted for the very discussed wheel tax. And let me tell you why I voted for that wheel tax. As the budget chairman, when I met with the comptroller of the state of Tennessee, and I'm sitting there with you, he tells me you do not have $3 million cuts in this budget. You have mandatory spending you have to do. You have mandatory spending that we cannot cut. It is not $3 million. So commissioners were coming to my committee, the budget committee, and requesting cuts. Guess what was getting cut? The fire service was getting cut, EMS was getting cut, rescue squad was getting cut. I stuck my neck out on the line and I pushed for a $40 wheel tax so that those public safety agencies could all be funded and the county could recover from the $3 million deficit. And we got by. Now I called a lot over that wheel tax, but I did it so Hawkins County could still operate. And $10 of that $40 wheel tax I set aside for a public safety reserve fund, which is still active today. And that's the revenue stream that keeps the public safety, the firefighters, their contributions coming in. So I've already started it, and I started with the 2017-18 budget. And as my mayor, I'll continue to fight for these guys to make sure our county is funded so that when you call, you get a fireman. When you call the sheriff, you get a deputy. When you need EMS, you get an EMS truck out there. So yes, I did vote for the wheel tax, and that's why I voted for the wheel tax, because I was not going to emergency service to go down.
Thanks, Steve.
Work with each, emergency service, find out what the issues are. At the table and, talk about them, lay it all out on the table, come up with a strategy plan as to how each issue could be, resolved. Let's work together to do this.
David?
In the real world, it would be great to have EMS people in all the fire departments. Have, rescue squads in all the fire departments. In the real world, we can do that, but we can't. I'm proud of our fire departments for what they do, our volunteer fire departments, our EMS, our 911. Every time I've ever called, I've had great success with getting an officer or whatever that was needed. There's communication problems. Cell phones don't reach everywhere. CVs don't reach everywhere. I think our people do the best they can do with what they got. I know they need new equipment. As the mayor, one of the guys up here said, we got to find grant money. We got to find federal funding. There's a whole lot of issues at hand. But we do need to get all of the people together that's in EMS, fire, emergency services, hazmat, all agencies together, and to sit down and work this out and see what we can do and see what we can get.
Well, first of all, emergency services necessary, definitely need some more funding, definitely need some more help. There are people in this room who sat on a committee that came up with recommendations for what to do with emergency services twice. And the county commission just kind of dismissed those out of hand. There was never any action really taken on those. I'd like to revisit that, and this committee is an example of the public that I would like to get involved with the whole government. We did use some COVID money for some turnout gear, but that's a one-time thing, so we're going to have to help all these emergency services get a plan together to continue that funding. I'd like to see them share resources instead of going after individual grants. Let's go after countywide grants and get this thing back on track.
Along with the other people, he's talking about the wheel tax. We have a resolution that's coming out in this packet this month about cutting the wheel tax $10. If we cut the wheel tax $10, that's going to be a $500,000 cut in our budget. What I'd rather see, and I've proposed this in someplace else, that we take a certain percentage of that money, instead of reducing the wheel tax, put it in public safety for a fleet policy for all the volunteer fire departments. Those fire departments are struggling with trucks that are outdated, and what we could do, we could take that money, I think somebody told me about $300,000 should buy a fire truck, take $300,000, let the committee, let the fire department decide who's in the worst shape, and start that fleet policy by rotating, by one the first year, one the second year, and that way then we'll start to get them a new truck in there. Another thing, we get them out of time.
All right. Next question. You mentioned a couple of it. Explain how you view the upcoming 14-member county commission. You see that as an opportunity or a problem, and what would you do?
Can you hear me? I see that as an opportunity. I think there will be, doing the math, we'll have 4 veterans, maybe 5, and you'll have all new commissioners. And at first it'll be tied, but you can start out new. Sign your committees, it won't be You won't be in a paradigm with a box saying, here's how we're supposed to do it. It'll be new. You need I want to be the leader that creates teamwork in that group. You know, whether it's a budget committee or whatever, you start out everything new. The mayor should know what the county needs. He should get feedback from the people and know where to start. The commissioners need to know what people in their district needs. And there will be some argument. You want something over here, the other one needs, but it's still teamwork. And when we get together, you reach a consensus that you take the politics out of it.
Can you read that one? Repeat the word. Yeah.
Explain how you view the upcoming 14-member county commission. Do you see that as an opportunity or a problem? And what would you do to address it?
I believe it's an extreme opportunity. That way it allows people to be able to work together on the same playing field other than being elected in as a default. So if you only have 3 commissioners running, by default, you get all 3 commissioners. So when you narrow it down to 2, you allow people that have the possibility of being a little bit more informed and passionate for the county to be able to take those roles into consideration and be able to actually work for the community. And with that mindset, instead of having multiple people that are there just because it was a spot open.
What did you say? Give me an opportunity to work?
Yeah. 14 commissioners now. Is that a problem? Is it an opportunity? What would you do?
Well, I think it could be both. If you've got 14 commissioners that was not willing to work with each other, if you've got 7 or 8 out of that 14 that's not willing to be a team player to achieve a goal, whether that goal was theirs or not, then you can have an issue. If you have a majority of common sense people that have the common goal of doing what's right for the county and citizens, it's going to be an opportunity. I think cutting from 21 to 14, it's giving less representation to a lot of the citizens. And I'm speaking from being a former county commissioner. Most county commissioners have other full-time jobs that they do, along with trying to manage the county's finances and be the legislative body. So unless you get some really good common sense people in there that'll work for you, I think it could go either way.
I apologize to everybody. I had 30 batteries for this. Apparently 30 batteries are not good. Thankfully my wife ran to the dollar store. We have new batteries for that. So I apologize. Thank you
Kiss the mic. He's got to change the frequency back there.
Okay, we should be good now. And some.
I think that working with 14 commissioners or 21 commissioners, if those commissioners are not willing to take the CCAS training, as I said again, are not willing to learn their duties as a commissioner, and they're not willing to be a team player and work with everybody, then it doesn't matter how many commissioners you have. The opportunity can be, if everybody's working together, then things can go smoothly. The problem can be, if you've got 14 commissioners and you have 7 that's on one side of the fence and 7 that's on the other side of the fence, you're going to have a tie vote and the chairman's going to be breaking ties all the time. And then everybody's going to be PO'd at the chairman. And it's going to be tough to fill your committees with your chairmans because you're not going to have enough to go around.
Okay, David.
straight out. You know, I can see both sides of the fence too. I know we're one of the 14 commissioners. I've read in the paper so many times. The vote was 11-7, and 4 abstained, or 4 no-shows, or whatever. If you're going to commit to the county commission, just like with anything else, then commit to it. Be there for the meetings, vote for your people. As far as 14 to 21, 28, 35, 6, 8, whatever, like Martha said, if everybody's not on board, it's not really going to matter anyway. So you do need to have these people that are going to commit to the position that they're elected for. And I'm sort of undecided. I don't know either whether it's going to be better with 14 or 21. And 2, if you have 14 and you have a tie vote at 7-7, then the mayor's going to decide that, and people aren't going to be happy, upset, or whatever. So, you know, it's a delicate situation, and really, all you can do is hope and pray that these people that are coming in, whether whoever one of us wins, that we come in and we do the right thing for the county and put the best interest of the county at hand instead of what we think might be best for us.
When it first was announced that we were going to 14, I was concerned. I was real concerned, because if you get the wrong 14, then you've got an issue. But I look at the people who are running now. We've got some young folks that are coming in, and it's been said before, no matter who's on the commission, it's going to take dedication. That person is going to have to be dedicated, and I think Stacy said this is not their full-time job. So they're going to have to really dedicate some time to this and be responsible. You know, you're going to be on 1/3 more committees than you were before. So, and we spend a lot of time in committees, believe it or not. That's going to be tough. You need dedicated people, and I keep harping on this, but I'm going back to saying, if we have 14, it's a golden opportunity to get some citizens involved in some committees. Citizens that know budgeting, citizens that know tourism, citizens know business development, etc.
Pretty much like everybody else, it's got its good side and it's got its bad side. You know, the good side, you've got 14 people, you're dealing with those 14. Unfortunately, the bad side, you're dealing with those same 14. So, you know, it depends on the people that does win these races. And that's the reason you need somebody that can talk with these people that's used to dealing with problems like this. And like I mentioned earlier, I spent 18 years in high school dealing with problems. And so, you know, I think it's going to be good as far as that goes, as far as getting the committees like everybody else. And again, I agree that it's going to put more work on those 14. We may have to look at maybe trying to combine some of the committees where that we can just say that it's an audit / tax or something. Just some of the committees can be combined together, can reduce down on that amount. Thank you.
Okay, I'm the one that turned in the resolution make it to 14, so I am definitely for it. Reason why I'm saying that, the biggest thing I've seen for almost 8 years I've been a county commission, it's been where the mayor has not communicated with the commission, and he communicates with part of it. When I was chairman of the county commission, I tried my best to make sure everybody was informed, and for 8 years, we all got along and everything went smooth. And I'm definitely for the 14, and I think it's going to have to start with the mayor. The mayor's going to have to be transparent with every commissioner, not just half of them and the good old boy system, the way I'm looking at it. So, but it's got to start with the mayor, and that's just how I feel about it.
Right. So follow-up question to that. There was a committee created which was a mixture of citizens and commissioners. It was called the Ad Hoc Budget Committee. How do you feel about, with only 14 commissioners, bolstering the ranks of some of the commissions with private citizens?
I believe bolstering the ranks of those positions could potentially potentially be a great outcome for the community because the citizens, if they work in certain areas or have a dedication to those particular policies, that they could really make a change because they're looking at it from a different perspective than direct commissioners. So with that, I think we could grow with everything. There's a potential for good and bad, but if you have the right people in there and then you can look at it through a positive way and everybody gets along, I think that our community could fast track growth exponentially, and that's a huge thing with allowing citizens in on that information and the ability to grow with it.
No, I have no issue with using citizens that could have expertise in certain fields that we may be looking at bringing on board to help as advisors and things like that. What I would not want to see happen would be elected county commissioners using appointed citizens to boards to make difficult decisions, so the elected commissioner wouldn't have to make that decision, or having the elected commissioner using the citizen to push an issue that might be something that a commissioner would need to push. As long as the citizens wasn't getting used in that aspect, I wouldn't have any objection with it, because there's many citizens that have all aspects of the different fields that we're dealing with. You know, we've dealt with the sewer grinder project at the jail, we've dealt with the fire issues, industrial development, you know, so many things that we could bring people in to use as advisors, as long as they weren't taken advantage of in a misrepresented way.
I, like Stacy, don't think that it would be a problem to have citizens in expert fields on your committees as an advisory. I think the internal committees that is appointed by the mayor for out of your county commissioners should be the ones that are the voters on that committee of the issues, because actually a committee is only, what comes out of a committee is only a recommendation to the full commission when an issue goes on for resolution. So I really don't feel like the citizens should have a vote when it comes down to a motion being voted on in that committee. That should come from the commissioners that have been elected by the people to represent them.
And I agree with all that. You know, in an advisory position, a citizen, you know, I would have a problem if I wasn't running for mayor, for the county commission or the mayor to come to me and say, hey, we would like your expert opinion on this. Would you be willing to help out? You know, but I shouldn't have a vote. I would just be able, as an advisory person, to give my opinion. So, you know, as long as the commissioners are still voting and they're still in control, I would have no issue with it. And I think that would encourage more public interest into government, and people would want to be willing to help more them. And so, I'm all for it.
Well, I think I've made my opinion known on this in just about every question we've had. I think citizens belong on committees. Advisory role is great. We had that ad hoc committee, folks sitting right here who are interested enough to be here. Woody, Randy, Josh, we were all on that ad hoc committee together until it got disbanded. That, in my opinion, was not the best move. I know Commissioner Harrell has put a resolution in for this month to put that committee back in place. And I think that committee was working well. The citizens were adding a lot to that committee, but then the commissioners that were on it moved forward to the budget committee, to the rest of the commission with the ideas. I'm not saying citizens, are going to take a voting role, but an advisory role on committees by citizens is absolutely critical, especially since we're going down to 14 commissioners.
like pretty much everybody else, I agree about the citizens having some advisory role, not being able to vote, because, you know, we were elected by the people to vote. A lot of citizens out here have a lot more knowledge about areas than some of us commissioners. But they have an expertise, and they can bring that to the play. I know in some of the committees, and we appoint, we vote up and down on elections. We put people on some of these committees that's presented to us. And I've heard no complaints about any of the committees. I think, you know, these are, the citizens do a good job on these committees, so I would be in favor of putting citizens on it as an advisory on it.
Okay, the ad hoc committee, that's another one of my committees I formed. And the reason I formed it is because I think the citizens, it's your tax money. I know everybody says it's COVID money, but it's still tax dollars. And I think every citizen, if you could, put them all on committees. Because, I mean, I think the citizens ought to take back their money, and they need to know where it's going. Because I know as a county commissioner now, we spend money, then citizens come up and say, well, what are you spending it on? I mean, I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you half of it. And that gives the citizens the opportunity to sit on a committee and let them see how the commission is actually working to see how your tax dollars are going. So I'm full favor of the committees, putting citizens on it, and like I said, got a resolution turned in, and hopefully it'll pass, and we can put citizens back on it, because you guys need to be involved, because it's your tax dollars.
I agree, but probably what we need to do, to be fair, is have a volunteer from each district, and it would be 7 volunteers where you can pick from. And if you've got them in advance, you'll kind of know what your skill sets are too, where they can really get it out. And I wouldn't even have a problem if it was a past commissioner. You know, there'll be a subject matter expert, and they'll have an opinion. They wouldn't have a vote, but they could give, especially when, you know, we got we'll have all new commissioners. So I would say have 7 on standby.
All right. So this is a question from Ralph Darnell in Mooresburg. Should the county mayor develop a balanced budget and present it to the budget committee to initiate the budget process?
Did you say, does the county mayor develop?
Would you, as the county mayor, develop a balanced budget to be the starting point for the commission?
Actually, the way that would begin, the office holders would compile their information at the mayor's office. The mayor's office staff and finance director would take that and present it to the budget committee in a first draft budget form. It would show the revenues and the expenditures. It would also show what our deficit would be if it's passed by county commission as it is presented in the first draft. So the mayor's office would compile that information in the first draft of the county commission. County commission would look at the first draft, make recommendations, send it back to the mayor's office. The finance director would then do those additions or remove what need to be removed and create a second draft budget. That draft budget would be sent back to the budget committee. It would have the expenditures and the revenues and what the deficit is at that point. They would take it, make adjustments again. It would come back to the finance director of the mayor's office. He would rework those changes until they got to, normally about 3 drafts is what it takes. When they get to a third and final draft, it would have it finalized at the revenues, expenditures, and what the deficits or should be at the end of the budget, and we would go with that. So the mayor would be a key player in compiling all that information, not necessarily setting the office holders' budgets, but putting it and organizing it all together with the finance director so the budget committee can make educated decisions on what they need to do. Because there's so many mandatory increases and things that has to be figured in.
Thanks, Stacy. Martha?
The county mayor, as the chief financial officer of the county, is tasked to see that there is a balanced budget sent to county commission for the office holders. And as Stacy said, that's done in workshops with the budget committee. The finance director sends out the notifications to the office holders that it's time to turn your budget in. Those are given a deadline, they turn them in. We compile notebooks. For the budget committee, you have a budget workshop that the office holders come and present their budget to the budget committee. And then they do the calculations on that presentation, come back to the budget committee, work on it. If it needs to have any changes done to it, they adjust it, go back, do new calculations. And all of that has happened in budget committee before it's sent to county commission for a vote. And it does need to, it does have to be balanced before it's sent to commission.
Thank you.
David?
And I'm just going to briefly say, I totally agree. Things have to be done in a process, and we may not always like the process of which this is done, but this process works. It may not always be to the best of your likings, but it does work. And this is the way it's done, and I have no problem with that. It seems to be, that's the normal. On this case, I'll say if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
All right, thank you. All right.
Well, in an ideal world, yeah, you could get the mayor to say, here's the budget, and nobody else has to work on it. Doesn't work that way. It's been explained by folks, Stacy's been directly involved in it, Martha's been directly involved in it. There are budget hearings that have to be gone through after the departments submit their budgets. There's a lot of work that goes behind it. When I was involved with that, if the mayor doesn't know every line in this budget, then we've got an issue. The mayor and the finance director are the ones that tweak the figures back and forth after the process has started and gone through the budget committee, the budget hearings, the approvals, and so forth. But if anybody wants to look at this, every line in here, the mayor needs to know exactly what it is.
Thanks, Mark.
If I understand the law right, the mayor does not have to appoint a budget committee. That he so chooses, he can do the budget himself, but that would be a nightmare. Just like the others have said, there's so much in this budget. You need to involve people. The commission needs to be involved in this. Everybody needs a stake in this. So I would think that we can continue doing the budget the same way we're doing. Everybody else already explained it. I'm not going to go through it again about it. I've got those binders Mark talks about, with the budgets, all the work in it from the office holders and from people that's requested money for different things. So the mayor does not need to do the budget himself. It does need to come out of the budget committee.
I think that the mayor should be the one we start with the budget. He ought to be able to go in. I agree with Mark saying. He ought to know every line item in the book. And with that said, I think he ought to go, because a lot of times me sitting on the budget, I see where it's new request. I think he ought to question the new request and make sure the office holder needs that request. And then we need to go, the mayor needs to go and get the finance director, and they need to sit down and look over the budget before it actually goes to the budget committee. Then after it gets to the budget committee, they need to decide, and the mayor and the finance director should be able to sit there and answer every question that the commission has, instead of like in the past, ever since I've been there, you ask the question, nobody can tell you the answer. And I really think the mayor, it's got to start with the mayor.
I think the mayor should appoint the committee, but he should be a part of that committee. And he should never miss a meeting. And I believe that would be the way for him to understand each line item in it. And it would give him an opportunity to be introduced to what really needs to happen. And you don't have to go behind closed doors, you'll know it right then. And you can make a lot of decisions if he stays involved the whole time without reviewing it again. He'll be sitting there with them, with the committee.
So as I understand the question, it's would I personally pick out and build our budget from scratch? No. Do I believe that he should know that everything that's in there? Yes. But there is committees that are designed to be able to be worked with, for and with the mayor and the residents of Hawkins County to be able to look it over, manipulate it if it needs to be. But as the mayor himself, I don't believe that he should have to do it on his own. I think that falls within the communication of our committees and subcommittees.
All right. So Martha, this question comes from Sybil Vaughn Trent, who's one of our commissioners, as you know. In 2017, there was a wheel tax increase. What could have been done to offset that increase? And I assume that means to not have to have an increase.
At that time?
2017, there was a wheel tax increase. What could have been done to offset that increase?
Well, as I recall, at that time, we had a deficit, and to not have had the wheel tax at that time, you would have had to put a large property tax increase on the property owners. And we felt like that, and I say we because I was working in the office, that the wheel tax was a more fair tax for every citizen in the county, because you have lots of people that are not property owners, but they own a vehicle and they ride our roads every day and they use their services every day. We pay for their garbage to be disposed of. So we felt like that was their way to contribute their fair share of taxes to the county for the operations of the county. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I personally have 4 vehicles. I wasn't real thrilled about adding $40 to every one of my registrations, but I did it. I felt like that, it's a fair way to distribute it, the responsibility of the operations of the county to every citizen. When they have an emergency, they expect Sheriff's Department to arrive.
Thank you. Hey, David, what could you have done in 2017 to keep from having a wheel tax increase? I'll paraphrase Sybil's question.
Well, I've had people ask me, why are wheel taxes so high? Well, I've not been on the budget committee. I've not been a commissioner. I've not sat down and looked at everything line item to look at each thing to see what is going on. But I have heard people say, well, people that rent don't pay land taxes. Well, that's false. They do pay land taxes. They pay it through their rent. Because you ask any owner of an apartment complex or rents houses, and if they tell you they don't charge X amount in their rent for their property tax, then they're stupid. I have a rental house that we rent, and the people that rent it, trust me, they pay my land taxes on that land every year. I'm like Martha, I've got 4 vehicles. I didn't like paying that extra wheel tax. But what I would like to see, and one thing I would have done, we've got a lot of people that buy their cars out of the county, and they get their they don't buy the wheel tax sticker, they just use it from the other county. I would like to see something that if we could get how many cars, trucks, whatever, that are in the county that are tagged from Sullivan County, Washington County. I just recently bought a vehicle from Washington County. I would have bought it in Hawkins County, but I couldn't. First thing I done, I made sure I had Hawkins County plates, and I had a Hawkins County wheel tax sticker. Because I do support my county. So.
Thanks, David.
Okay.
Okay, 2017 was the year before a lot of us started our term in 2018. I felt bad for Stacy because he was up against the wall on this. The state was about to take control of the budget, take control of everything. There had to be some sort of fix, and the wheel tax was the handiest thing at that point. There are lots of creative things I'd like to do with the wheel tax, but that doesn't have anything to do with this question. The wheel tax was necessary at that point to prevent the state from taking over the budget, which would have been a disaster. You'd have had every nonprofit cut to zero. Nonprofits including rescue squads, including emergency services. That's the first thing that the state would have cut. So that would have been a disaster. So at that point, that was about all that could be done.
Thank you. Well, I agree with Mark, Stacy both. You know, I was not on the commission then. And when I started reading about it, I didn't like the wheel tax. Of course, I wasn't like a property tax either. You know, they got backed up against the wall for whatever reason that happened with put the budget in the shape that it was in. Unfortunately, sometimes you do need to raise taxes a little bit every so long, just so you don't get into that crunch. So they had to put the wheel tax or a property tax. And I've talked to different people that's talked to me about the wheel tax. I said, did you want a property tax increase? No, I don't want that. So fortunately, I was not on the commission to have to make that decision. You know, we do have to make hard decisions. So in this case, they had to make a decision to do one or the other, and they chose the wheel tax. So that's what we have as of right now.
All right. I guess as a business owner, I mean, when my business gets slow, I don't start looking to add the cost to my customer. So I mean, I look at it, we should start cutting spending. I know nobody likes hearing that, but you've got to cut spending. Then work your way if you got to increase taxes or something. And back in 17, we did not cut nothing hardly, just to raise a wheel tax. So I guess I look at it, we should have started cutting some spending. Like I said, I know it's hard, a lot of people don't agree with it, but you can't keep throwing taxes on the taxpayers, so we keep adding debt to the county. And we, as commissioners, you should be able to look at stuff and decide, do you really need it at the time? So I say we should have done a lot more cutting.
I don't think you should raise property tax and lower wheel tax. I don't think you should buy a new fire truck with the money that we're paying with wheel tax. I think there's other avenues we're not really going, grant money. I personally believe there's more money out there to be had. I believe there's training, whether it's the commissioners, the mayor, that we can do on how to get grants and really get involved in that and have somebody totally responsible for it. And I believe that is probably the only way we're going to really get the fire truck and reduce the wheel tax. And I think we should, every budget we would create, we look at, because when the wheel tax was created, we said it was temporary. Did we not? So I think we should constantly look at how we can lower it. But it's not saying I'm not for buying a fire truck. I think there's money to be had we're really not going after.
Thanks.
Because we're not educated enough on how to get it.
Thanks, Joe.
Would you please repeat the question?
Back in 2017, we instituted a wheel tax. What could have been done to avoid that wheel tax?
I mean, it's pretty simple. Run a tighter ship, pay attention to your budget. Obviously, the people that are in there know the budget, and if you don't have the money for it, then you shouldn't spend it. If it's coming to the point to where the state's gonna step in, I think that there should have been, a complete visual oversight of the cognitive spending that was going on in the county. And I know not everybody's at fault, but the people that were elected to take care of that obviously neglected it.
Thank you.
Yeah, repeat that question one more time.
But in 2017, we
passed the wheel tax. What could have been done to avoid that wheel tax?
The only thing that could have been done to avoid that wheel tax at that point would have been a property tax the previous years before to help offset the expenditures. That was my first year coming in as a budget chairman. Prior to that, budget committee was creating budgets that were deficit budgets that finally caught up to them. As one commissioner said, we're kicking that can down the road, it's gonna catch up to us. Well, guess what, 2017-18, it caught up to us. We was $3 million in a deficit. The state never actually came to us and said, we're gonna take over your budget. That never occurred. Myself and the finance director at the time reached out to the state for guidance because county commission would not pass a balanced budget, would not pass anything increases, they kept wanting cuts. Budget committee went back, we cut over $400,000 out of the sheriff's budget, we cut $800,000 out of building capital projects. We cut every office in the county 5%. Somebody said a while ago there was no cuts. There was pretty significant cuts. There was no raises to county employees that year in the budget to try to get it passed. We cut that budget down as low as we could get that budget cut, and the state comptroller said you cannot cut any further and maintain this budget. That's why the wheel tax went into effect. We could have cut all the nonprofits, the fire department, the wheel tax, and the $10 that we appropriated to go to the public safety reserve and make sure the fire departments and public safety had a revenue stream. It's the only time that I can ever remember a dedicated revenue stream going to public safety to fund them. So the only way you could have got around the wheel tax would have been a property tax.
Thanks.
Money was spent.
Thanks, Steve. I'm gonna kind of mash up three questions we've got from the audience. And I'll paraphrase what these folks have asked. And it's the same kind of issue. Have you identified wasteful spending? And if so, how do you plan to curb it? What departments of county government are overfunded in your opinion or underfunded, and be specific? And would you support a line item veto for the commission? I think actually this is what happened. So basically what these folks have asked is there any spending that can be cut? And is there some that should be increased based on your knowledge?
There is some spending that can be cut. In what all directions? I can't answer that question right now, truthfully. You've got to sit down with all the budget committees and all the, or with the budget committee and with all the elected officials in their offices and work with them and see if you can reduce some of their budgets. Yeah, there's overspending in this county. I see it all the time. We all see it all the time. You see in offices where there's people sitting around doing nothing. I've had people come to me and say, well, why are there so many people working in this office? Why are there so many people working in that office? I personally think, we could do without some of them. I don't see nobody lose a job, but when it comes down to the economics of it, things hurt sometimes when you have to cut budgets.
Thanks, David.
Okay.
All right.
It's a tough question because there's a lot of places you could cut some money. But what most people don't realize is that a lot of the budget is mandated by the state. You talk about certain departments having too many people. Well, those departments are mandated by the state, some of them are, to have that many people. Whether they need it or not, it's there, it's a mandate. Each department out there could cut their budget a little bit. You know that when a department head puts a budget together, there's going to be some padding in there. There's going to be some padding in there that could be cut. But I feel like there's a department that's underfunded, and that's the sheriff's department. Those officers don't make what they need to make, and we need to fix that somehow.
Thanks, Mark. Keith?
Like everybody else, again, I agree that some of these budgets are inflated a little bit. If you look at the end of the year, most departments have a certain amount of money that comes back into the general fund, and that's one of the ways that the general fund has increased. what we could probably do as the budget is say, we are going to cut a certain percentage, don't know what percentage, but a certain percent that you're gonna get. So of course, where it's gonna come back, at the end of that year, there won't be as much money coming back in. So there are ways we can look at that. They are budgets that are padded, like Mark said. One of the, what Mark said about the sheriff's department, and I think that they need more money, and I think we need to try to do more money to help our services, you know, the fire service and other things of that sort. So, so the answer is yes, we have budgets that are inflated, and there are some departments that do need more help.
Thank you.
I also agree with Keith and Mark. The budgets are padded, and I think that's where the mayor needs to start. He needs to start to see why everybody's budget is over padded. And that's where we need to start. And then, and I mean, I agree also with Mark. I mean, the sheriff's department, our road deputies, I mean, every one of them ain't making nothing. I mean, we need to start figuring out ways how we can help the county. Because I've noticed, I mean, like, we get a lot of money into this county, then we end up turning around, we'll go spend it on something else instead of kind of looking at what we really need to spend it on. And then later on down the road, it pops up, oh, we should give the deputies a raise, so on, but we ended up going over here buying a trash truck or whatever. I mean, we're gonna have to start using our money wisely, because I mean, it's tax dollars, and as long as we just keep getting it and spending it, however, somebody's gonna have to start taking control and take the money and stand both feet and say, hey, we're not doing this no more.
Thanks.
I pretty much agree, but everything you hear, we need more revenue. And some of that is industry. We need to be focusing more on bringing industry into our county, because somehow we've got to figure out a way to increase the revenue now. And I go back to, is there monies out there we can get by just being educated on how to get them? But overall, I pretty much agree with what's being said.
Thank you.
So yes, I do believe that there are different departments that are underfunded and overfunded. So one being underfunded is definitely our sheriff's department, and some of the potential items that our fire departments need, and then some things that I believe that are overfunded, not necessarily overfunded, but can be looked at a different way. So at the point, why would we not hire, look at the bus shop, so hire ASC certified mechanics. That way they can service the fleet of Hawkins County. So in one way, you're creating a job, or possibly several jobs, and then you're allowing our vehicles to be serviced by county vendors, and that can provide ease on taxpayer dollars instead of affording multiple mechanics at different shops at different times. And the same thing with potential body work. It can go both ways.
Thank you. What departments are overfunded and underfunded, in your opinion, and what can be done to cut?
Well, I can't sit here and think of any department that's overfunded. I can't think of any office holder that is just ecstatic with his budget and tickled to death with the pay his employee gets and what they're paying for insurance. We can only cut what the citizens and the commission think that they don't need. Your non-essential services. If you want to cut your parks out and you want to cut things like that, you can save a ton of money. But you know what? In reality, we can't do that. We can't cut that out. I've heard some sitting commissioners up here say that there is fluff in the budget. So as mayor, I would want to go to the fluff that the sitting commissioners are talking about and see where this extra added money is in the budget and start cutting that. When I was a budget chairman in 17, one of the first budgets we put together, we went through, you get an annual report, you see your actual expenditures and what your estimates will be. So if you put your actual, what your previous year was, close enough to your
estimated for the next year, without any new expenses in that budget, you should relatively be pretty close. The first budget, the budget committee put together that I was part of, we were $75,000 in a deficit. They're making $1.9 million deficit budgets right now. The budgets need to be more in line with the revenues and expenditures. If they do that, then you're going to cut the fluff out.
Thank you, Stacy.
As purchasing coordinator and issuing purchase orders for all the elected officials for making their purchases, all that went across my desk. I processed all of those. And an elected official, you the people elect them, you entrust that they are going to put a budget together to operate their office efficiently. They have state guidelines that they have to follow, so they build a budget that is efficient to operate their office. Now, granted, every year they may not use anything out of a line item that's in that budget, but they don't spend it just because it's there. And sometimes there'll be an issue come down that they have to address that overspends their line item, and you have to do a budget amendment, and you pull it from another line item within their budget. If you cut their budget to bare bones, then when they need money, they have to come back to the budget committee for a budget amendment out of the undesignated fund balance of that fund, and that takes out of your reserve over here that you've got that you're hoping you don't have to spend.
Thank you. All right. We're going to have time for one more question. Been lined up. This is another economic development question. The state just released unemployment numbers, and we're at 3.4%. That's the lowest it's been in 30 years. Do you think local businesses are experiencing a shortage of workers? And should the county continue recruiting industries that would compete with existing local businesses for employees? In other words, do we have enough jobs already?
That's a question.
Yeah.
Okay, I face this issue every day. We need people, and it's hard to find people. It's hard to find people that are going to come in and work. They may want to come in and draw a paycheck and not work, and that doesn't do anybody any good either. So yes, we are facing that issue. As far as recruiting industries that would pull from that, I like industrial development. I like business development better. The small businesses that have started up in Hawkins County seem to be doing really well. And go back again to here's a place where we can use these folks who have found out how to start a business to help other people start businesses. Industrial development is great. It's going to take a while, and I don't know that it would significantly draw from the local workforce away from local businesses. I think we have to hit it from every angle.
Yeah. Thank you. Keith?
I think that we do need to have more jobs available. You know, you're talking about the industrial, recruitment. Hopefully with this new CTE building they're talking about getting started, they've gotten applied for grants. The county commission put $2 million toward that. The school put $2 million for that we can use that and to help jumpstart getting some other businesses in here, some industries in here. I know Pip's Ben is sitting up there. There's a big tract of land up there that could be used for a huge business. And again, I hope that will help pull somebody in. But as far as the small businesses, like Mark said, we need small businesses here. And, there are a lot of people out there. I don't know what happened to, during the COVID, people didn't work. A lot of small business had trouble going back and staffing their jobs. And hopefully that we will get back on track as COVID's gone and people will get back to work.
Thank you.
I think one of the best things this county's done, we come up with this CTE stuff, and that's gonna help the young adults educate yourself more and go into some of these small businesses that's struggling. I've got like I said, a CNC machine shop, and it's hard to find anybody to work. So, I mean, the CTE is the way to go, and I think that's gonna help this county more than anything. And then, we're gonna have to go and work with the industrial board and the city and county leaders and try to figure out how we can get more industry in the county.
Hey, tell everybody what CTE means.
Career technical education.
Okay. So, the common vernacular is tech school. Okay, Kelly.
There's one thing we're missing and we're not thinking about. Think about how many people in the county, in Hawkins County, is working in another county. And a lot of that revenue is going another direction. So it's very, very important we get industry into Hawkins County. I've got a small business, and I agree with what's been said. But bringing industry in will draw people back working those jobs, and you'll create the revenue within Hawkins County if we look at industry. If I become your mayor, I'll go see Larry Hawkins and see what I can do to help him. I've even got some ideas already. But I think that's very, very important. And we don't want to touch it sometimes, but because it's going to take some hard work and it's going to take some time. But if we don't do anything, we're going to hear all the stuff we're talking about now. There's not enough revenue to go around.
Thanks, Kelly.
So we got to go find that revenue.
Thank you, Kelly. Kenny?
Sorry, sometimes we get a little off topic. I would like to hear the question again.
It basically boils down to, do we already have enough jobs in the county? And are people looking for employees and can't find them?
Okay, so this is what I propose. So as being a former small business owner, I believe right now between our small businesses and our current industry, we probably do have enough jobs. Is it to everybody's liking? I guarantee it's not. But what happened to me when I ran my small business, I did it as a self-venture, so I did not have the avenues to figure out what could help me, possible grants, and allow me to survive and be able to hire people local to us. So I believe when you are applying for a small business or a business ID from our local government, there should be material supplied that informs people of possible taxes, what grants are possibly available, because I was on my own and I was blind for a long time, and it took a long learning curve, and that took up a lot of my time that I could be putting towards my business and growing it to where I didn't know what outreaches and grants were available to me. And I think small businesses are crucial. That way they can grow and eventually possibly be part of our industry and our industrial growth. So,
we are sitting on a gold mine with Phipps Bend Industrial Park. And if I heard anybody ever say, we don't need more business for more employees, I just could not go along with that. That industrial park is built for nothing but growth. Larry Hawkins and the team at the industrial park, or the industrial board, are working diligently, daily, weekly, and monthly, to try to recruit new businesses into that area. They're working with networks out of Sullivan County, who was basically contracted through the county to help do our industrial recruiting for Phipps Bend. We have a spec building up there that the county sold about 5 years ago, that the county built it on a grant partially, and the county debt service fund paid that off. And then we were able to sell that. And I think now the new owners are in the process of trying to rehome, resell that building now. But we always, we have room for growth at the industrial park. And yes, I 100% support what Networks is doing, what the industrial board is doing to keep that going, to make Hawkins County marketable so that we can bring those good jobs to our home here in Hawkins County.
Thanks, Stacy. Martha?
I think to recruit an industry to Hawkins County, when an industry is fixing to relocate, they're not only looking at the facility they're going to relocate to. They're looking at the community, they're looking at the education and how efficient it is. They're looking at your law enforcement. They're looking at your medical facilities. They're looking at recreation. If they get sick, are they going to have to drive 60 miles out of town to get medical care? So they're looking at the community as a whole. So that's where we have to work together to keep everything as top-notch community in order to attract them. And as far as small businesses, to keep small businesses going and to generate revenue in the county as through tax dollars, you have to shop at home. You can't have a small business and go to Kingsport and spend your money up there and forget about your little people, because as Alan Jackson's song says, the little people makes your town.
Yeah, sure do. Thank you.
Well, wasn't that fun?
Forgot me again.
All right.
I'll just tell you folks, I'm a lost cause. Nobody wants me.
I tell David, everybody in the county knows him because they've all seen him through the window.
Seriously, all jobs matter. Whether it's big business, little business, small business, industrial, commercial, doesn't matter. I do run a small business, me and my family. Right now, I'm working 60 hours a week. That's why we're closed on the weekends. We cannot get any help. People say, well, pay them $20 an hour. $20 an hour. You show me any restaurant in Rogersville that's paying an employee $20 an hour, and I'll jump up and down, do whatever I'm going to do. It's not going to happen. We've got some good paying jobs in this county. We've got some that don't pay real good. Our median income in this county is approximately $50,000 per household. Is that good? No. Is it bad? No. But people are surviving. People are surviving. There is a job shortage. I don't care what the state of Tennessee says. I don't care what Joe Biden says. There is a shortage of jobs, because if there was, I would be open regular hours. I'd be open on the weekends, and I'd be serving ice cream and hamburgers to people that want it, that are calling me from California and Florida and saying, well, we're coming in to visit, but we know you're closed. So we do, and anybody that says that we don't have enough jobs, I'm sorry, we don't have enough jobs. We need more industry. We need to try to keep our children at home, to work and raise families here. And yes, I'm going to say it, and maybe I shouldn't, but we need God back into our country. If we don't have God in this country, Sheldon Livesey wrote an article the other day in the Rogersville Review that talked about former presidents and what they said. And I'm talking about George Washington, Adams, Monroe, going back to the founding fathers of this country. Whenever they said something, they had biblical proof to back it up. That's what we need as leaders of this county, of our cities, our towns, and our country. And if we don't have that, folks, we're screwed. Thank you.
That's a good way to end up. That's a good way to end up. Thank you, David.
Reminder, we get to play with fire trucks after this.
Andrew, would you ask all the fire folks and all the members of the association if they would please come forward? We have some members of our fire association and fire departments that are seated in the audience. I'm asking them to come down, and while they're coming down, I would like to all of us to give yourselves a round of applause for staying the course for this forum. Chief Hiett, that includes you up front, please. These are just a few of the men and women of the Hawkins County Fire Services that save this county $15 million a year. I've spent the last year and a half, Chief Fugate is a member of the group that's doing it, Chief Hiett. We've been doing the study and analysis, and we can tell you what it costs to provide fire protection to your county. And we're getting it done on budgets that average less than $50,000 a year per fire department. It's roadblocks, it's biscuit breakfasts, it's donations, and it's memberships. This past year, our association obtained 4 fire engines donated from out of the state. We've made trips to other jurisdictions to accept donations of equipment. It's keeping the cost down. Now, I'm sure we didn't get to all the questions that were submitted. I think we have some questions from the audience that didn't get quite a few asked. They will be asked next week. And one thing I've had a lot of people ask me, well, what are the questions you're going to ask? Mark Derrick is not here tonight, he's in Nashville. Don Hiett, Mark Derrick, Woody Boyd, and myself worked on these questions. Our focus was to make sure there were no gotcha questions. We didn't want any silly stuff. We want clear questions that are generic and that people want to answer. I think we got that tonight. Let's give our candidates for mayor a big round of applause. Get your act together, folks. We're going to do this again next week at Volunteer High School. The questions get tougher.
Same question.
Stacy, I'm going to tell you what I told you in the barbershop. I'm not telling you squat. We have fire trucks outside. If you get a chance to go look at them, we have a donation jar or a boot if you want to drop $1 or something in there. But these men and women are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they're running fire trucks with an average age of almost 30 years. Sullivan County buys a new fire truck every year for a fire department. It rotates, takes 10 years for every fire department to get one. There are a lot of things that we can do, but let me tell you something. If you don't do anything else, give your local fire department a donation. And at the end of this month, Goshen Valley, we're going to have a breakfast. And it's not all you can eat, but you can buy 2 breakfasts if you're hungry. So, how many of you think that this was worth your time tonight to be seated in this audience and hear these questions?